Well, yeah, good to see everyone. Yeah, so we've got a few things we want to talk about. We're not going to try to talk about everything because that would be foolish and impossible, and it would be a waste of everyone's time. And so we picked. It would take it would take at least 35 minutes. Um, so we try to boil it down to some of the things that we're most excited about and seeing the most value out of. I'm going to talk about the blank slate project, and the blank slate project is really what it says here, kind of an effort to redesign or rethink the design of the Bible translation process, given the technology that we have today. So. The project is being funded by primarily Joe Bob, who is he is an anonymous 88-year-old man, and he's just said to go and kick AI's butt for Bible translation. So so God bless him, and it's amazing because it gives us a lot of freedom to just explore and really try things that maybe we wouldn't be able to get permission to do from somebody else. So that's been amazing. And also ETEN Innovation Lab has been funding our work and been a massive supporter of all of this. So especially thanks to Koos and the rest of the lab. Okay, and then the two main projects that we're going to talk about now is the Codex Translation Editor and the LangQuest app. So, but let's first just do a little exercise here. So your Bible translation needs to be high quality. It needs to be done fast, not like in 20 years or 30 years. Like it needs to be done sooner than that, and it needs to be done affordably. So it needs to be affordable. Unfortunately, you can only pick two of these things. So you just have to think, which one am I willing to sacrifice here? We can do it really high quality and really fast, but it's going to cost a lot because we got a lot of people working on it. Or, you can extrapolate all the other contingencies there. But we wanted to think about what would it look like to do high quality, fast, and affordable? Is it possible? And of course, given this first row here, the current paradigm doesn't really support that. The way that Bible translation is done does not support doing all of those things. And so that's where the design question comes in. If we sort of dial it back, someone was just telling me this morning, Elon Musk's $15,000 handle on the space station, and they said, you know what? They went and found at the hardware store a $15 shower handle that did the exact same job and worked perfectly. And so we're kind of trying to ask some of those questions, like, okay, if we just kind of clear the page, what are we going to do? So we're trying to explore what might a different paradigm look like. And a critical thing here is finding and redesigning the bottlenecks in Bible translation. So that's really the vision, is given especially the AI technology that we have today, how would we approach Bible translation if today was our start? Or if this year was like, okay, we're just starting on this project of Bible translation. What do we do? Well, we've got technology. What kind of technology do we have? How are we going to leverage it? So it's, we don't want to just forget about all of the lessons learned. Not at all. And at the same time, we also don't want to say, well, given the process that we have, we just want to sort of plug in AI in these, critical spots and sort of speed up those processes and get, 20% more efficient or 20% faster or even 50 or 100%. The goal is really to start with an open canvas. And so the process we've been following just as a team is identify some of the critical bottlenecks, then explore whether the technology we have, not even what we're waiting for, but what we currently have, cannot relieve those bottlenecks effectively. And then, are there some new solutions we need to think through and try to discover, how to maybe apply technology? We're not breaking ground in the AI research space. We're just saying, are there ways that we can apply the technology that nobody's really bothered doing before? Usually because there's no business incentive to do it. And then also, overall, we're trying to pursue a rapid, high-quality translation process. So far, the two major bottlenecks we found are low-resource language data. That data is just a massive bottleneck. It is the bottleneck, really, and we know that. I'll show you in a moment why we know that. And the second bottleneck is adoption. We're most going to focus on the data one today. The adoption one, very important. And then, of course, my slide is duplicated. Sorry about that. And then here's, thank you, ChatGPT. I really love their new image model. I actually couldn't think about how to show the data bottleneck and it did just a great job. And of course, both of them are hitting brick walls because they're stuck. So here's just a short video. This is basically showing what can you do today using the technology we have to translate high quality translation data. Now what's actually happening here is this is a translation project that right now it's translating Matthew 1, but actually this is a subtitle translation project. Somebody has been translating subtitles, and the subtitles are in Tigrinya, the source is English, and so what we did is just download an English Bible and then say, okay, let's start predicting based on your project, based on the way you've been translating, how might you translate Matthew now that you've been doing your subtitles? And we can kind of batch predict them. Let me see, I'm going to skip ahead a little here. Now the thing is, these are generated by AI, and so, well, are they good? Are they bad? I don't know, it's just a big question mark. So then the user has to go through, select these cells, and then validate them and say, yes, those ones are good. I like those ones. And if you actually open a cell and edit it manually, it just validates it because you confirm the content. And then you can say, I'm going to include now the cells that haven't been validated, and I'm just going to regenerate those because I'm not married to AI output. It was just generated 10 seconds ago. So I'll regenerate that. So anyways, this process actually results in really good drafts. For instance, I just took a New Testament that someone had, loaded it in as the sort of seed data, and then I generated a chapter of Jonah, and this is in a relatively low resource language, and then I sent it over to the translation mentor, and he said, hey, this is really good. This is good. It's natural, it's clear, it seems like a very good translation. There was one typo because it was Arabic script and it had a letter N in it. And I could recognize that typo, but I'm not sure where it came from. But anyways, so it gave us a really great starting point. Now the other thing we do is, there's a lot of other things, but another really critical feature is learning from the post-editing that the user does. So you generate a bunch of AI translations, maybe you validate some of them. Some of them you're like, okay, I just really need to fix this word. This is wrong, or I need to reorganize this. Once you do that, what the app does, it's really simple. It just keeps a snapshot of every edit. And then whenever you go to a new cell or verse or subtitle or whatever, it looks at the content you have and says, okay, let's go find other cases where you had content like that and you edited it in some way. And then we'll use that to try to predict how you might edit this next cell. And so we call those smart edits. Thank you, Daniel, on my team. And so now the question is, how are we progressing with this app? There's a lot more I could show you there, of course. It's been interesting work in progress. We've had to throw out a lot of code. We've made 4 chatbots, and none of them are currently being used in the app because we just haven't nailed that down yet. Okay, so first of all, it's fast. When you saw that, it's very fast, especially if it's a high-resource language. And there's some people translating, for instance, the Pilgrim's Progress, and they can move very quickly because they can just read it. Say it's in Hindi, for instance. They just read it. They can see if it's good or not. They can post-edit, and then they can just progress really rapidly through the project. So it is fast. Now, high quality. Well, one thing we've noticed is if you give the LLM examples, so that's an AI model. It's an LLM that's powering all of that. It can be being a keyword. It can be way more consistent than people. So in terms of typos and, how did you translate that in the past? Well, you don't even have to go look because the AI is looking at how you already translated that because it's looking at the source text and saying, where's the most relevant samples? And the smart edits also are very useful in terms of improving the quality. And then validation happens rapidly. But you can actually have multiple users. You can require that, okay, we need 2 or 3 or 4 or 15 people to validate each verse. And you can see their names and when they validated it. And if you change the content, okay, those validations are attached to the previous edit, so now you got to revalidate. And then also there's a lot that we are doing, have done, and can do in terms of anomaly detection. So we can see how you've been translating. We can compare across, between your source text and your target text. We can create profiles of these and say, where are you being inconsistent with yourself? So I don't have to interpret the theology of your translation. I can just say, you've been translating like this the whole time. Now you've got this, and that sticks out. If it's okay, great, give it a validation. If it's not, maybe you want to take a second look at that. And then in terms of affordability, this one is I'm very excited about. But this was for about 50 languages, last month, this is just the usage cost, not the development cost, but it averaged to about $6.86 per translator per month. And so all in total is like, $300 or something to run this, 320 or something. And the server costs are really low, and that's almost all LLM inference costs. And if you change models, it could be cheaper or more expensive. If you change services, it could be faster and more expensive or cheaper. It really depends. It's been an excellent, awesome race to the bottom in terms of AI costs. So very happy about that. And I mean, that's kind of just, this is just, maybe this is a soapbox, but when you scale your software, it should drive down the cost. That's the whole promise of technology. If scaling up your software doesn't drive down the cost per, on a per capita basis, so to speak, per user, then you're missing something, and you want to actually go back and say, okay, let's rethink this so that we can do it in a way where the costs get lower over time. We don't want to have to add all, new layers and levels of costs per user. Okay, so now Caleb from my team is going to come and talk about LangQuest. This is also something very, very excited about, so I'll hand it over to him for a few slides here.
Thanks, Ryder. Okay, so about a year ago, we had a really good contact with someone in the Philippines who was working to translate the Bible into a low-resource language, and he heard that we were working on AI-powered solutions to translate the Bible into low-resource languages. So we got connected. We tried different LLM techniques, different agentic frameworks. We tried to get the most that we could out of the LLM, out of the AI, but we found that the main bottleneck, which Ryder mentioned previously, was really the data. We know that we can translate virtually anything that we want as long as we have enough data in the low-resource language that we're translating into. So we've got all this data all over the world. Basic question is, how can we get it? And around this time, God blessed us with an incredible contact with YWAM in Mazatlan specifically. So they were taking on a very ambitious project to gather all of this low-resource language data for audio, and they were looking for a tool to gather and to organize it. And we were looking for low-resource data, so it worked out really well. And so we got to visit with them and see how they worked with the technology in the field. And we got a lot of really valuable lessons. One of them in particular was that they're just looking for a box. They want a box to put things into, to put their information into, that they can reference later on. They want it to be simple, intuitive, accommodating. And so before we went down there, a couple of guys on our team, they put together a web app. It worked really well, and we got to see how the people in Mazatlan interacted with it. And one of the things that it struggled with, though, was working offline, just by nature of the framework that we were using. And so we realized, well, we should really be developing an offline first mobile app so that people, because a lot of these low resource languages, they're out in the middle of nowhere. So you need something that will work reliably, because this information that they're gathering, it's like gold. We can't lose it. It needs to work in an offline situation, and it needs to work offline. So actually, before I go to that, so we're thinking about how are we going to develop this mobile app? What are the priorities that we're going to have when designing this? So we decided it needs to be open source and open data. So the data that we collect, it needs to be available to the world, to anyone who wants to use it. They can. It can't belong to us. It needs to belong to everyone. And the actual code that we're developing right now, that's also open source. So anyone can go look at the projects that we've been developing. They can make derivatives. They can make contributions. They can look at the Git history if they really want to. And so you can see an example here. If you go onto langquest.org right now, you can see this is all developer data for now because it hasn't been launched yet. But you can go and see someone looking at the different resources that are going to be translated. They can see the different, I'll go into this more detail when I show a demo of the app, but they can see the quest that it's a part of, the translations that have been provided for those resources. They can listen to it, they can see the votes that have been cast. So I'll just leave those QR codes for both the repository. Yeah, you can download all of it. It's free to download. So open source, open data, it also needs to be accessible. So not only highly multilingual, a text minimal interface that anyone can feel comfortable just opening up and using. It also needs to be multimodal. So not everyone, especially in these low resource languages, not everyone is going to be comfortable just using text. They're going to be wanting to listen to the audio that they need to translate, and also record the translation in audio. Maybe they want to look at a picture. They want to look at a picture of a dog or a sunset and just say what it is, and then that gets recorded in the database, and it's freely available. It needs to be offline first, as I mentioned. It needs to be scripture agnostic, and what I mean by that is, because that term might raise some red flags. What I mean by that is that it needs, so our goal is to translate the Bible into low resource languages, and to have that be supplemented by AI. So in order to do that, you don't necessarily need biblical language pair data to do that. You just need language data. We need language data. And then we can use that information to help with AI-powered Bible translation. So more practically, the app isn't going to lock you into saying this is the chapter, this is the verse, this is the book. It's just very flexible, but it can accommodate that kind of format. And we want it to be fun eventually. Translation is very difficult work, as we saw especially in the field. We want users to have a fun experience, to have it be rewarding, to feel incentivized when they do it. So before I show a demo, excuse me, before I show a demo, I wasn't brave enough to do a live demo, so this is a recording. But just for reference on the left-hand side, I'm going to be talking about projects and quests and assets and translations and votes. So all it means is that in the app, you have projects. So that just represents a single concerted effort from different people to translate resources from one language into one other language. So you can have multiple projects. Within one project, you can have multiple quests. So for this example, you might have multiple chapters of the Bible being quests. Within that, you can have multiple assets or resources. So those are the things that we actually want translated. And then for a particular asset, you can have multiple translations. So these are translations that members of a project have provided for that asset. And then when someone provides a translation, other members of that community can vote on it if they think it's a good translation or a bad translation. Oh yeah, all right, okay. Yeah, got it. Oh yeah, okay, good. So we want it to be accessible, so you can see if you want to change the language, you can, and it'll update the UI automatically. You can register as a new user. And then once we've logged in with a burner email, then you'll see a list of the projects come up, different projects that people are working with. Again, this is just developer data. It's not real data for now. So we've logged in. Again, projects are defined by translating from one language into another language. So here we might have two efforts, one to translate into Zapotec, another to translate into Mixtec. We're just going to click on one of them. But first, we're going to look at the side menu. Because of the really hierarchical nature of the data, it can be easy for users to maybe feel overwhelmed, like, where am I? What am I looking at right now? So we just wanted to make an easy way for them to see that. So we've clicked on a project. You can look at the list of quests within that. And you can filter and sort according to custom tags. So right now we've made custom tags that users will eventually be able to make for, let's say they want to define that, like a tag for like the Spanish word for chapter and verse, and then you can tie those to the different resources. So we're going to click on that quest. We can see the assets in there, the things that we need to translate. In this case, there's an asset for each Bible verse. We're going to click on Luke 1:2, And you can see here's one, the text for the BES translation of the Spanish verse. You can see different translations that people have provided. And for each text, you can listen to the audio. No, it won't come through. Right now, the audio is just being generated. You can generate it dynamically with AI, so you don't need someone necessarily narrating it if it's a popular language. Again, cats are not part of Luke 1:2. This is just sample data. So you can, as far as the translations go, though, that people have provided, you can open it up, see what people have put into it. You can listen to a recording that someone made. Someone thought that this was a good translation of Luke 1:2 in the target language. If you think maybe it's a bad translation, maybe it's a good one, we'll say it's a good one, and then that vote that you cast will be seen by other people. And then, yeah, more on that later. But let's say you want to make a better translation, so you'll open up the new translation modal. It's not a particularly good translation, and then you can record your own voice or provide text for it. If you can pause it, re-record it. It's a recorder app for this part. And then you can submit it. And once you submit the translation, then other people will be able to see it immediately, and they can vote on it, whether they think it's a good or a bad translation. And we'll just pause it right there. So that's the app. Future plans, release date, end of June, it's at the very latest when it will be on the Play Store. If we can release it sooner than that, we will. Content creation. So as I mentioned, we want users to we don't want to be policing, like saying, these are the resources that we need translating. We want end users to feel free to just create their own content for their own groups, things that they know that they need translated. We want offline collaboration. So both offline usage and collaboration are key components of this app. So we want people to communicate peer-to-peer when they're in the middle of nowhere, so they can see each other's translations, they can see each other's votes. And as Ryder mentioned before with Codex, so Codex is a really convenient AI-powered translation text editor, and it's for desktop use, but it can be difficult to take desktops out into the middle of nowhere. Smartphones are far more convenient for that. So if we can connect the two, then we can have someone working on a translation project getting real-time data from the field for the data that we need. And not only that, but the AI translation predictions that Codex makes can go directly into the app, and then the end user of the app doesn't just see translations that other people have provided, they also see AI predictions. They can vote up or down on it, and then the AI can learn from that and make better translations in the future. And I'll just leave the QR code for the newsletter there if anyone's interested in more. That's it.
We got a couple minutes still, or no? Somebody interrupt me if I'm running out of time. Okay. So, in conclusion, Archimedes, from my memory, said, I translated this from my memory, not from the Greek. Give me a lever and a place to stand, and I will move the world. And so we really believe, from what we've learned and also what we can see happening just in the broader ecosystem, we think that AI informed with low resource language data provides the lever. And then disciple making and church planting movements, for example, in particular YWAM, that's the adoption part that we didn't really get into here. But that provides a place to stand for it actually to hit the ground. And with these two pieces of the puzzle, I really believe that we can have fast and affordable and high quality translations all together, that you won't have to choose and say, oh no, it's gonna be really expensive, or it's gonna take 20 years, or it's gonna be garbage. And then, we're also, we with YWAM, we really share the goal of translating the Bible, not just into the 7,000 languages. That's an awesome place to start. As we know, the all access goals with ETEN are catalytic goals. It's meant to catalyze translation. But actually what we want is everyone's mother tongue to have a translation, to have a full Bible. And we really think that you can get there. Of course, to get there, we're going to have to take our hands off the wheel in a lot of ways and let people around the world do that. And I mean, in terms of fast and affordable and high quality, I think as much as any of us might want those things and feel very strongly about those things, the people out there that want Bibles, they want them even more than we do. And so it's actually about us handing them tools that are usable, that are free, that are open ownership, that they can then take and they can modify them however they want. They can do whatever they want with them. It's theirs, and then they can get the job done. And as the church globally, we can get the job done. So anyways, that's the vision there. Yeah. Any questions? Yes, Marcus. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the reasons, so the main difference there, Marcus is asking about using LLMs versus using like sequence to sequence models, basically, where you put in a sentence and a sentence comes out translated. It looks like that we were doing that, but that's not what we were doing. We actually have, you can turn on debug mode and look at the logs, and you can see that we're actually saying, hey, LLM, first of all, here's the project we're working on, here's the translation brief. That's part of the system prompt. And then the user says, okay, what you need to do is look at all of this translation data, the examples that I'm providing you, and use that data to make an informed prediction. You have to stick to the language that I'm actually asking about and what you see in the samples, because it might be an ultra low resource language. It might not be something in your training data. And so you really have to follow those patterns. Then we provide it, 30 of the most relevant patterns from the project. And then we give it the next sentence and say, now try to predict this one. And we give it the immediately preceding context and a few other things. So anyways, one of the main benefits of doing that is that as soon as you check off, you validated a few sentences, now your model is informed with that most recent up-to-date data. There's no gap in terms of, okay, I need to go now fine-tune a model or retrain a model or go out and get another batch prediction. It's just immediately the data is there and available to the same LLM. And what we found is taking that approach, we're not assuming the language data is in the model. We know it's not. That's the whole point. But we're telling it instead basically to solve a puzzle. That here you've got a bunch of language samples. And I mean, I could give any of you a sheet of paper with 30 samples of translation pairs and a new sentence that overlaps with all those examples and say, now do your best to puzzle out what can you make of these sentences? What should get into this new sentence? And you probably would be able to make some kind of prediction. Now, it probably would be a lot better than if I just said to you, hey, Marcus, can you translate John 1:1 into Elvish? It's like you have no idea what to do with it because you don't have anything to work with. But if I gave you, Tolkien's a bunch of examples or something, you'd be like, okay, I might actually be able to make something of this. So anyways, that's the reason we do it is that tight feedback loop that immediately, like anytime you make a change, the model's not out of date. It's always got access to the latest data. So. We're collecting the data, and it sits on that public database, and anybody can clone the database, download or export all of it, and we're hoping that all of the above happens. So training new models, absolutely. I hope that we can go to Meta and say, hey, when Llama 5 comes out, can you please include all of this data? And then suddenly, all of these people in these communities, they'll open WhatsApp, and the bot will be able to speak their language, and they'll be able to ask about the rash on their child's leg, or why their crops aren't growing, or how to make a business out of their flock of sheep, or all those kind of critical things. So, yeah. So LangQuest is collecting multimodal data, so audio and or text and or images. We're not collecting images at this point. It's not that difficult to do, I guess, if we want to. We are having nightmares about what kind of images will show up on the public database, but really don't want to become the police of that, but probably someone will have to. But yeah, in Codex, it's all text right now. There is some really interesting crossover, though. There's BCS, this organization in India. They are actually generating machine transcripts, and then they put that into Codex as the source text. And then for the target, they just clean up the machine transcription, because a lot of the languages they're working with, they aren't supported by the transcription model that they're using. And so then they clean up the text, and then they take, whatever amount they've transcribed manually, the LLM can then start to predict how it ought to transcribe, and they can very quickly get a large data set of cleaned up sentences, and then they can fine tune the model. And they've had really good success with this, with at least one language where they couldn't generate audio, or they couldn't transcribe the audio either, and then they've been able to train a model, and yeah, it's been phenomenal. There's also a future iteration of Codex where, because it's built on open source technology, it's built on VS Code from Microsoft, we can actually drop it into other apps. And there's another app that's being built called Scribe on the same technology, and that's going to have audio directly in there. So all those cells could also have audio attached to them. And they do have some of them, like with the subtitles, they have timestamps, and we can play a video, and you can see the subtitles you're editing or the AI is predicting right on the video. But yeah, we want to get the audio in there too. Yeah, it all goes into the public database. And then we actually, with YWAM, they're also collecting a lot of data. They're doing a lot of oral translation. And we've got, I haven't created the adaption layer yet, but we've got access to all of the data, and we're actually hoping that all of it can be synced across databases. And it's all CC0 data. If you're using LangQuest, you have to agree to the terms, and the terms are it's like LibriVox. You guys know LibriVox? It's like recorded audiobooks, and it's all public domain volunteers. That's what LangQuest is. If you want to reserve the rights, you can record it with just your phone and keep it private and secret and all that kind of stuff. If you want to share it with the world and actually open up the world to your language, then you can use LangQuest, and it all will go out there. And yeah, in terms of, yeah, we have some connections with Meta, for instance, and they're looking for conversational language data. Like, they want natural language data, audio or text. So they're looking, like, these, as we know, these companies are looking for it, the data. And if it's public domain, sure, use it, please. That will be a huge blessing and a gift to those communities. So, yeah. Does that answer your question? Sure. Yeah, so one thing, let me just do, I'm going to show something really quick. So I have Codex open here. On the side, there's this little thing called Copilot settings. I forgot. This text doesn't zoom. Oh, no, it does. It's just smaller. So here, when you first open this up, you can just generate, some project directions. It's kind of the translation brief based on the source and target language you set. But you can add any notes you want in here. So if there's something that the AI is consistently doing wrong, you just add a note about it. And we found really good success in just telling the AI, don't do this anymore, or do this. So yeah, that's, in terms of the cultural information, there's a lot of that in the training data. Some of it's going to be mistaken or incorrect or not applicable to the exact situation you're looking at, but that's where you can have a little bit more fine-tuned control over it. Yeah, actually, yeah, great question. We're doing that right now. What we have is a server sitting there that's running Rust Desk, which is a remote desktop. It's nice and snappy, running in Rust. And it's sitting on a server in Germany or something. And users can actually access, I think, do I have the app open here? Yes. There's an app called Diode that we're using. It's basically peer-to-peer, fully encrypted, end-to-end encrypted chat, but you can also share bookmarks or links, and they're tunneled links. And so we can actually basically go to our server that's running Codex with a remote desktop that you can view in the browser, and that's exposed on, localhost 3000 or whatever. and then we can link to localhost 3000 on our server in Diode. So if someone logs in, they unlock their app, then they just click on the link, and suddenly they're viewing a tunnel connection to the server, and it just works. So that's, yeah, we're piloting that in 2 weeks. So yeah, I'm sure we'll probably learn some things, and this is it's a scenario where we don't want any data on the devices. So then if Diode shuts down, or it logs out, or it locks, then it's gone. There's nothing, no trace of it. So yeah, that's our. There's other things we've thought about, but this seems like the best option. Yeah. There's 2 QR codes there. Yeah, one of them was you probably just want the newsletter. It's called LandQuest. It's not on the App Store. Yeah, you can run it on your phone, but it's not published yet, for purely bureaucratic reasons with Google Play. Yeah, yeah. Actually, yeah, no, yeah. For reasons I will not get into. But anyway, so if you go to www.langquest.org, yeah, then you can sign up for the newsletter. You won't get a confirmation email. I think that was not on the free tier. No, actually, it probably is. We just didn't have time. Yeah, then we'll just notify everyone on the list when the app is out and with subsequent updates. Yeah, Marcus. I have no idea what the time is. So when it gets noisy in the hallway. Okay. So the AI in LangQuest, right now, there's no AI in there. It's just a simple crowdsourcing tool, which is actually, for some reason, we still need these things really badly. But the way the AI actually interacts is as a user of the app. So it looks at a project, looks at what you've done, makes predictions, can suggest new translations. So if it interacts like a user, yeah, and then the offline stuff is a little, yeah. We basically, Caleb in particular, put a lot of thought into how can we make this extremely resilient to extended offline periods. If somebody, disappears into the jungle for 3 months and then they come back and somebody deleted their project or renamed it or something, like, what happens to their data? Well, we don't want to lose it. So it's all append-only data tables, and yeah, it's everything's just linking to other things, not mutating the data at all. So, yeah. No, not to say we won't, but no, yeah. Okay, I feel like we're out of time, right? Yeah. Good. Okay. Yeah. Before any hard questions come.